I think like even myself, like I feel like I had this like specific image of what that person
Yeah.
was like.
Like an emo
And
artist or like a goth artist.
yeah. And then I was
Yeah.
like, those people literally paved the way for everything. Like the people that everyone thinks are weird, like 5 years later, everyone's doing it. And I know that in my conscious brain, but it really took me until seeing people who like were maybe femme presenting or still liked wearing makeup or
Mhm.
like still wanted to identify as lesbian and still were non-binary that I was like, oh, okay, other people are doing it. So I guess I can too, which is so
Yeah.
backwards. But yeah, for me, that was really important.
Welcome back to Queer Talk for season 2. If you forgot, we are the #1 podcast to connect you to all of your favorite queer creators and a space where we share our stories on all things queer related. And hey, if you're new listening to this, give us a follow on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and we are now streaming full video episodes on YouTube. So you can watch these episodes on your TV, phone, tablet, wherever you are tuning in. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. The link to watch is in the description. Guys, today we have a very special guest on. She's a podcast host herself. They're also a photographer, TikToker, aspiring lesbian TV personality, etc. You can find them on TikTok at You Did This For Why. Please welcome Emma Stern.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Thank
The
you.
energy. I was like, I'm ready.
That's my radio voice.
Yeah, it's a
I
good radio voice.
I learned a lot from Alice Piasecki from The L Word. I'm currently binging it for the
hmm
third time.
I only ever watched the first 3 episodes when I first came out because it just felt like the right thing to do, but I never really got into it.
I feel like it's kind of like the main thing people search, right? Because it is called
hmm
The L Word, and it just has a bunch of like beautiful women that are like centrally draped over one another. So
hmm
like I feel like all the gabies flock to it, and it's like one of the first TV shows that's exclusively, queer.
Yeah.
So like I remember watching it. It's so funny. I remember watching it closeted. I was a junior in high school, or not junior in high school. I was a junior in college, and it was on Netflix, but I had a family account, right? And so I couldn't. God, I could never watch it on a family account. The fuck?
Of
So
course.
I illegally downloaded all of the seasons onto my, because I was really into like downloading illegally at the time. Because I was like, oh, I'm like college student, I'm poor, I'm going to download everything illegally.
hmm
But I did that specifically because I was closeted, and I binged it all in like a week or two. Wow. Yeah.
Whole new world.
It really was. And like, I do have like pros and cons to it. I know you haven't watched the
hmm
whole thing. We don't have to get into it, but like,
Yeah.
they just look so free. Like, they just
Yeah.
look so free and unencumbered by like heteronormativity. And
hmm
I don't know, like something about the essence that they gave off. And a lot of those women are queer in real life. Those folks are queer in real life. I
Yeah.
think that exudes, and the director and the creator is queer. So like, I think I just love the essence of it more
Yeah.
than the actual show itself.
That's how I felt about Skate Kitchen when I first saw it. I don't know if you've seen it,
I
but
haven't.
it's so good. It's like this literal group of like female skaters were scouted by a random director on like a New York City subway. And
Oh
he was
wow.
like, I'm going to build a whole movie around you guys. And he did it. And a bunch of them are queer. And it's literally just kind of following them around for like 3 months in the summer and just following around their skate life. And like Jaden Smith is in it for a little bit. But I remember watching that and being like, that's what I need. Like, a gender nonconforming like group of friends that are girls who just like
Yes.
do whatever they want. And yeah, and like being queer isn't like the main thing. It's not like a crazy thing. It just happens to be a part of their persona. And I was like, that's so nice.
Yeah, I like to watch a TV show that is not about like the queer,
Like the
coming
coming
out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, God. If I
Yeah.
see another happiest season, I'm gonna fucking
Mhm.
rip my face off. I don't know what.
Yeah. I'm like, we get it. It's hard. Let's move on.
Yeah, and everyone does it, and it can be relatable to some aspects, but like, yeah, we need more things where queer people are just doing things
And
as queer
happen to
people.
also be queer.
Yeah, yeah. Like, they
Yeah.
don't have to talk about it. It doesn't have to be the point of reference for the story plot.
Yeah. It's just there.
Yeah, like there's a place for it. There's a place for tasteful videos that show those things, but it's not like
Mhm.
the whole fucking, like once
Yeah. It's
and
like,
it's
what about
like,
after? What about the next 50 years of your life?
what about
Let's
all
talk
the
about
tiny
those.
coming out things that you have to do after the initial big coming out? Like there's
Yeah.
one hump, but then it's like a roller coaster. You have the
You come
big,
out like every week.
yeah, You've got
Yeah.
the big fucking huge scary,
Mhm.
and you come down and then you have a bunch. You have some loop-de-loops, you got some little
Mhm.
corkscrews, you got little tiny ones. They're not as big as
Mhm.
the first one, but you still have to do it.
Yeah.
You got to ride the ride until it
You
ends.
gotta ride the ride, and the movies have to show it.
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody shows like coming out to your gynecologist or just like coming
Mhm.
out to each coworker at every job you have until you die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, I haven't had to do any of those things because I've been unemployed since I came out
Yeah.
and have not gone to a doctor. So I'm just waiting. I just watch the TikToks and I'm like getting advice from them. I'm like, what to say to your doctor.
It's not bad. I have a male gynecologist, which I feel like I have a lot of like female friends that are like, really? You have a
That's like
male
my nightmare.
gynecologist? Yeah, that's what everybody says. Like
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm like, look, I had him since I was 16 because my mom put me on birth control when I was 16 because I had
Mhm.
like really bad acne.
Mhm.
And like, God forbid, I wasn't having sex then because because I was
Mhm.
just
He's just
really
your guy.
particular.
Yeah.
I was so picky. Um,
Responsible and picky.
yeah, I was really
Yeah.
conscious. I was an overachiever, Emma.
Mhm.
I had goals in my life. No
Yeah.
man, God. But I just was always with him. Like, and he's still like good. I've
Yeah.
considered going to a different gynecologist just location wise. And also maybe just because it's a female. But honestly, he's been like super chill. But I had to come out to him this summer because I
Oh my
go every
gosh.
year and not or no, it wasn't the summer. It was the summer before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the summer before because
Mhm.
the age old question like, oh, are you sexually active and
Mhm.
stuff? And I was like, yeah, I yeah. He goes,
Obviously.
oh. He's like, okay, are you using protection? And I was like, no. I was just like waiting for him to be
Yeah.
like, why not?
You're like, this is my moment. This is my moment.
I was like, oh, okay. Like, can I ask why not? And I was like, well,
I'm gay now.
and he goes, oh, okay. And I was like, okay. And that's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
That
Oh
was
my gosh.
it.
I came out to my psychiatrist last week and he
Cool.
was the last because I was like, I just don't want to be psychoanalyzed yet. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for him to look through my old files and be like, oh, this all makes sense now that I know she's gay. I was like, no. But it was the same thing. I was like, all the build up, and then he was just like, all right. And I was like, okay. But it is weird coming out to people who aren't like your close people. You're just like, oh,
Yeah. But like you have to because they're
mhm.
the people that are like looking at your vagina and looking at
Yeah.
your body and like, trying to keep you healthy. So you kind of have to
Hmm.
like say
Keep them
that
in the
stuff.
loop. Yeah.
Which I think is hard for people who aren't, 18 yet. And they have to, it's just like, well, do I hide it? Do I,
Hmm.
because like your parents can find out. But yeah, that stuff is crazy. But for you, like when you first came out, the big roller coaster drop,
Hmm.
was that pretty recent? How long have you kind of been out?
I came out in July.
So
So
pretty
like
recent.
6 months ago,
I
I'm like a
was
baby.
pretty recent. I didn't want to
Yeah,
be
no,
like,
I am
I
a
know you're
baby
like
gay.
so new. I couldn't tell, but I was like, I feel like she's new, not just
Hmm.
because just like the certain content. I just
Hmm.
remember I remember looking for that content and even when I first got on TikTok, like in like April, I started posting some of that. Because I'm not a gaby. I consider myself a teen. I'm a
Hmm.
teen. Gaby. I'm a tabby. I don't know. I've been out for a
You're
couple
not like a
years.
vet, but
No, I'm
yeah, you
not
have
a
a couple
vet.
years.
I'm not a vet. I came out to myself in college, but I didn't come out to people and start dating until like, geez, end of 2017, 2018.
That's crazy. So many people say that, and so many of my close friends. I have another close friend who came out during the pandemic, more on social media, but she had been like kind of closeted and like had been even dating without even telling her friends that she was out, or that she knew she was gay. And like I literally like it was all within like a 1 month span that I was like,
Really?
maybe I like women, and then I was like, maybe I would marry a woman. Then I was like, maybe I wouldn't marry a man, and then it was all within like a month, and then I literally told like everyone I knew. I just like can't keep a secret. I was like, well, I
Yeah.
might lose everyone in my life, but I am a blabbermouth. So
That is crazy. You did it all in 1 month. Are you someone
yeah.
like when you're at the pool, do you dip your toe in and slowly get in, or do you just fucking cannonball?
No, I cannonball.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, no, I was like, I can't just sit with this. Like this, I was like, losing my mind. And it had only been like 2 weeks. I was like, how do people stay closeted for years? It's like, I'm so blessed to be able to come out right now. Like,
Yeah. So what was
yeah.
that when during that month? Like, what was that first thing that you're like, oh fuck, I'm not straight completely?
Okay. Well, my first moment was I was like stuck at my mom's house for, I think I went home for like 3 months at the start of the pandemic. So I was like, what am I going to do right now?
Yeah.
And so my roommate's American too, and the border was about to close. And so
Okay.
literally over one 24-hour period, we both like booked flights and just like left. And so I went home to live with my mom for 3 months, and I was sitting in her basement every night where I am now. And I had nothing to do. And so I was like binge watching like all my favorite YouTube comfort videos. And my number one comfort video on YouTube was Atypical Casey and Izzy compilations. And I was
Oh
like,
wow, yeah.
maybe we should talk about that. And then I literally sat down and I was like, I'm not pushing this off. I felt like I'm probably bisexual my whole life, but I've just thought that's a problem for another day. And so
Yeah.
I like took out my notes app on my phone and wrote a list of all the girls I'd ever had a crush on in my life from like birth to now to like validate myself. And I was like, okay, a straight girl wouldn't have over 30 girls they had crushes on. Like, I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of how I first was like, okay, we're ripping the band-aid off. We're admitting it to myself. And then I was like on dating apps for like a month. But I started seeing like a lot of my friends because I go to an art school. And so I started seeing mutual friends and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like someone's
Okay.
going to out me if I don't out myself. And so
Yeah.
then I just like told people.
Crazy. Everyone does it so differently.
Yeah.
So and everyone does it at their own pace. Like, because it took me literally so many years to figure it out. Like, it was so fucking slow. So it's like so fun to hear you be like, yeah, a month I did this. And then I was like, oh shit, 30 people that I have a crush on. Okay, might be. Then you're like, okay, dating apps. Oh, mutual friends. Okay, well, I gotta come out now because I can't figure it out. That's so funny. That's so crazy. So like since then, like how has that journey been for you? Because I feel like it's so new, and like I can tell by like your content and stuff, like you're very analytical, like you're very astute in like the observations, like where you're like comparing and contrasting and things like that. So it's so nice to see like the fresh perspective of coming out, because you have a bunch of people in different timelines doing queer content. So I think I really gravitated to that stuff because I was like, it was like almost nostalgic for me to watch your content.
Like, oh, she's going through it.
Yeah, I remember it. I have vivid journals about it.
Yeah, I think that like I've always just like made content, and I never really made TikTok content before I came out, but I've like always like had my podcast, like you said, and I've always like posted a lot on Instagram, like always been friends with influencers. So it just like felt very intuitive to me to like try to figure out what was going on with me through TikTok. And I was like, oh, like people, maybe I'll find people that relate to me, because I felt like I was just going through stuff that none of my, at the time I only had straight friends. And I was like, no one gets what's happening right now. I need to talk to people. So I think like a weird part of it was that like I was out on TikTok from like the day I was out to like my roommate, and like even before I was out to like my family. And so like TikTok knew first, as a lot of people I feel like say now. And then yeah, just like I think what's been so interesting about kind of coming out on TikTok and like talking about it as you're coming out is like people forget that I'm like a baby gay and I don't really know anything. And so I've been like almost canceled a couple times for saying things where I'm like, I genuinely didn't know. I'm sorry. Like I literally just came out last weekend. I didn't know that lesbians don't like that. Like, but it is kind of like a weird thing. I never thought that I would get any views. So I was like, oh, I'm just like asking for help. And now it's like, yeah, like you said, like I'm only 6 months into being out, and then people are like asking me for advice about coming out. And I'm like, that's not where I'm at. But it's interesting. I'm like, it's a cool place to be.
Well, I think like you have experience as much, like let's say someone's in the closet, you have more experience than them. You know what I mean? You have 6 months on them. So like, even though you might not be a vet, or you might not have been out for a few years or had, you know, relationships, WW relationships or queer relationships, like you still have a voice, and you still can give advice to your experience.
Yeah.
So I want to discourage your like you from doing any of that. If you speak like authentically and like from your experience, like you'll never like overextend or look like you're trying to talk about stuff that you don't know. You know what I mean?
No one can tell you didn't do something that you did.
Exactly. And I think you do that. Like I love the observations that you do with like the men that you've dated versus like women and things like that. Because it's so true.
Oh my
So
gosh. Like the
fucking
amount of
true.
fights I've gotten in with girls that I started dating just because I was like treating them like a boy.
Yeah.
Out of control. They were like, I'm not dumb. And I was like, sorry, I'm just used to that. Like, I'm used to like not being like sexually or romantically attracted to my partner. So like,
Yeah.
and spice it up with fights. Now I got to find something new. Like, this is the remix. Like, I don't know.
I know. I literally remember like most of the guys that I dated were either guys that I wanted to be. It was a lot of the aspect was like wanting to be them. And if it wasn't
Mhm.
wanting to be them, I don't know what it was. Like I think I was trying to embody like certain aspects of the guys that I dated and also just
Yeah.
like keeping up appearances. And there were like a
Yeah.
couple guys that I really truly did like on all
Mhm.
levels. But like once I started dating women, I was like, oh, those all those levels come much quicker, much more intensely, and it's just more fulfilling.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Like, no matter how much I thought I like loved boyfriends in the past,
Yeah.
the idea of like living with one would like make me like visibly upset. I was like, oh my God, like I'll have to like live with one forever. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, the day I was like, oh my God, I can live with a girl and it doesn't have to be my platonic roommate. It
Yeah.
was like changed my whole life. I was like, oh my
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's super crazy. And like the whole like I not that I had crazy relationships with men. I had like two 6-month relationships, like one and I had a high school boyfriend and I had a college boyfriend.
Mhm.
And I just remember like saying like that I would date like a little bit and then be like, he's just not my type, or like, I just don't feel that zing, you know?
Yeah, like with dating men and just being like, why don't I like them? That's literally like my roommate and I. It's so funny because like since we've had a weekly podcast for 2.5 years now, we just a large part of it is just talking about our lives at the start. Like our personal updates category has just gotten longer and longer as we've gone over time. And it's so funny listening back to old episodes about dating. And she got out of a 3-year relationship with a guy and then 3 months of healing. And then she went on 2 dates. And one of those guys now is like she's like going to be engaged with him. And like I see them
Oh
getting
wow.
married. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've literally gone on 40 first dates this year. Like, how is it that the second guy you've gone on a date with is like the one? And like, out of
Yeah.
these 40 amazing guys that I've gone on dates with, like, I hate them all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that. And then listening back to that part of the podcast, I'm like, oh my God, Emma, you sound so gay. Like
Yep. Yep. Yep.
it's so good.
Yep.
All the
I
memories.
think like I just remember just like yeah, like I just remember like the gayest shit. Like if somebody would say that to me, I would be like, "You're gay," you know. Like when I was like, I
Yeah.
just don't feel that attract. Like I just don't feel that chemistry is what I would say. Not attract.
Mhm.
I would say I'm just not feeling the chemistry. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I just don't feel like, and I couldn't understand why because I would see like my roommates and my friends, like they would have their hoe phases and they would have the guys that they were super interested in, and it was like magnetic and like chemistry and like passion. And I'm like, am I just like demisexual? Maybe I need to be in love to feel
Mhm.
that. Maybe I'm fucking I literally thought I was asexual, and then I was like, no, I'm not, because I felt that. So I was like, maybe I'm demisexual, and I need to be in
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Because the only two guys that I really, really liked, I like one of them. I thought I was in love with high school love, and the other one I think I could
Yeah.
have fallen in love with.
Yeah.
So it was my only frame of reference. And then
Yeah.
literally, like the first woman I ever dated, I was like, oh, that makes more sense.
Literally. I was like, wait, I feel like my only reference point of what love is, like that's what I felt on like my first date with a girl. And I was like, oh my God, am I in love with you or have I never been in love?
Yep.
And I can't tell.
Yep.
I still don't know. like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I genuinely am like, am I in love with every girl I've ever talked to? Probably. Like my repressed
Oh.
ass. Like,
What was it like when you started dating women? You realized that like the dates were like super long.
yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, dates. Like I had heard like stereotypes about
Welcome.
it.
Welcome.
That's crazy. No way. Like, that's not like what dates are. And then, yeah, like my first date with a girl, we had like a picnic. And then she was like, oh, well, we should probably go get coffee. And I was like, okay. And she's like, oh, we should probably grab a drink. I was like, yeah, we totally should. And then I think she like spent the night. And then the next day we went and got coffee. And then we ended up just hanging out for like an insane amount of time. And I was like, is this what it's like? And then the second girl I dated, it was the same thing. So I was like, oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah. The dates are really long. So up until like maybe like a month or two ago, like the longest date or the shortest date I ever had was like 4 hours. And I had
Mhm.
a 2-hour date. And my friends were literally like,
Did you hate each other? Like, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the best date. It's probably the worst date I've been on. And it wasn't because like she was like crazy or like anything like that. It was just
didn't
like,
vibe.
we didn't vibe, super awkward. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
have a fucking podcast. I talk to strangers weekly. Like,
Mhm.
it's not me.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now. I can talk to a fucking rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'd have a great conversation. Like, I was like, man,
Mhm.
okay, this isn't gonna work.
Mhm.
With a host of other red flags. But
Yeah.
like she's a cool person. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
I was like, man, I really wish I would have just stayed home.
Yeah.
I was like
Oh
one
my
of those.
gosh. I feel that. And I feel like something else like nobody told me, like, or I heard like jokes about it, but I never took it seriously. It was like how insular the queer community is. And at first it was just like the Toronto community for me, like where I live. And now I feel like it's like all of North America. Like I just feel like I know everybody now,
Yeah.
at least through someone. Like anytime I meet a girl, we have 10 mutuals on Instagram. And so I feel like it forced me to like be really like civil with my exes and like learn to be like nice to people and like to actually see them as a human being, not as like a monster when you break up with them.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna tell all your future girlfriends what you were like. That's been like a weird
tree. You're only a couple people from someone.
yeah.
And I feel like it is like you never want to leave bad blood in general. Like they say that like, you know, when you have jobs, you never want to have bad blood between jobs and stuff like that because you never know like when those, you know, you're going to burn bridges, right?
Yeah.
But there's just some fucking people that you date that are just not supposed to be in your life. Like no contact. You're not supposed to be friends with them. I mean, I'm not friends with any of my exes, but I'm not like, I don't hate any of my exes.
Yeah.
There's one that I just like truly just, I dislike, but I don't, I would say hate's a strong word.
Yeah.
More indifferent, but like, yeah, that's.
Yeah. I got really lucky that the first girl I ever dated was very not a part of the queer community at all. She didn't have a single queer friend and she just had no interest in being a part of the queer community. Like all her friends were straight. She didn't like follow queer content. Like she wasn't even on gay TikTok. She was on like straight TikTok, even though she was gay and she was out to her friends. But it was honestly, it was hard because I didn't really get my like satisfying like entrance into the queer world.
Yeah.
But I also felt like I got a clean slate because I was like, oh, she doesn't know anyone. Like
true.
Yeah.
True. I think, yeah. I mean, the first woman I dated, she was super into queer culture, but like didn't like she had a couple queer friends, but it wasn't like a total immersion for me into anything. But like it did give me queer friends for the time being, but then I had to make my own when we broke up. But like it was nice to share queer culture and to share the different, like, you know, because I was really, when I first came out, I was big into YouTube and the queer YouTubers. And when I was in college and I was only out to myself, I was really big into BuzzFeed. Like I love the BuzzFeed videos of that time. Yeah.
They were so good then. I miss that.
Oh my God, yeah. And I'm actually friends with a girl who worked at BuzzFeed now from TikTok.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Which is
it's
like
weird when you're like, I love you. Like
yeah. She wasn't like one that I was super big fan of because she did a lot of more of the behind the scenes stuff, but she was in some stuff. But it was funny because like it truly is, you are truly like two people away from people that you never thought you'd be away from. And I think like doing this podcast, like I'm two people away from Cammie Scott. I'm two people away from Shannon Beveridge. Like if I really wanted to like, you know, get those people on the podcast or like it seems like things are so far away, but they really aren't.
They aren't once you're in it. And it's so cool. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat. Let's talk about your journey with your pronouns.
Yeah.
Because you're just doing it up. 2020 was
I was like, if
coming
I
started coming out. 2020 was sexual orientation and gender representation.
Yeah, I guess I'm very like a proactive person, I guess. Like once I start something, I can't really stop. And so I never, ever considered my gender pronouns in my life. Like it never even occurred to me. But I remember the first time I saw she, they pronouns being used was Hunter Schafer last year, like from Euphoria.
Okay.
And like Jules from Euphoria. And it was their bio on Instagram. And I like remember Googling it and being like, what is she, they? What does that even mean? And there was nothing, like not even a Reddit thread. Like there was not even an Urban Dictionary. I was like, oh, okay, no idea what you're talking about, but that's cool.
Yeah.
And then this summer, suddenly, like there were so many of my favorite TikTok lesbians were now she, they. And I was like, okay, there must be more now. And so I started looking it up and I think I started thinking about it this summer, but I was like, no, I literally just came out. Like, let's just take a breath, can we chill for 5 seconds? And then like in November, I think is when I remember like the same thing happened where like before I came out as gay, my whole TikTok For You page was about coming out as gay. And I was like, that's so weird. Maybe I'm gay. And then I noticed the same thing. My whole For You page started to become about she, they pronouns or about being non-binary and like this whole like gender spectrum. And I was like, oh no, here we go again. Like there's nothing I can do now. TikTok has taken me and like I have to just follow the journey.
Yeah.
And then I ended up like a few creators who I really like admire, who I also have now mutuals with, which is so cool, have like commented and like have sent me resources for like articles to read if you're thinking about it. And then once I kind of did that, it was the same thing where like the moment I was like sure of myself, I had to tell everyone.
Yep. I get
and
that.
I was like, this is what it is. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, I have seen a lot of people start to experiment with they, them pronouns. And I've seen a lot of people with she, they pronouns. And I've always wondered, because like if I can't tell from like their content, because I thought about it too. I was like, man, like I wouldn't mind being called they, them. Like it wouldn't be something that I would be like, I'm uncomfy by it, which is, I think it's crazy because I feel like no one's uncomfy by
that should be the natural. Yeah.
That should be the default. Like if at any time, cis, like even cis straight people, like if you're like, oh yeah, like they're over there, you know what I mean? Like themselves, like no one would be like, I'm a she, I'm a, no one would say that.
It's so true. And so many cultures don't even have like he or she pronouns. Like so many cultures just refer to everyone as like one thing,
which is awesome.
Yeah, there's like a lot of different like indigenous languages I've been seeing on TikTok that are so cool, where they just refer to like anything that's like alive. So like trees, people, whatever, are just like the same descriptive word. Wow. And so like women, men, trees, everyone has the same one. It's just like rocks that don't have that one. And so I was like, that's such a cool mindset. It's like, we're not even thinking about your gender when we're talking about you. We're just thinking about the fact that you are breathing.
You know what? The rocks are going to rise up though. They're going to be
the rocks will rise up.
This is bullshit. We deserve representation.
The next TikTok movement, I wouldn't be phased.
Rocks versus Wade.
Yeah.
Oh man. I think that's really interesting. I think indigenous cultures, not that I have a lot of research and experience on it, but I mean, like they have really incorporated, people who are not on the gender binary, people who are trans, those kind of things. Like they it's a part of the culture, and it wouldn't be the culture without them. Like they're an integral part of the culture. And it's so sad that indigenous populations have been pillaged and plundered and by, colonization and things like that, because I feel like they were more connected with nature than ever, more about oneness and wholeness. Like I am the same person as this person and this tree.
They really had it together. They really had it together. No, it's so true. It's so crazy. Yeah, just how like not normal. And I think like even myself, like I always like, this is going to sound bad, but like I think it's still relevant, is that like I always looked at people who were like non-binary or used any sort of they them pronouns as like the quirky weird person, like the person who like shopped at Hot Topic. Like I feel like I had a person in mind, like had the short neon hair, maybe like like I feel like I had this like specific image of what that person was like
an emo artist or like a goth artist.
And then I was like, I'm like, those people literally paved the way for everything. Like the people everyone thinks are weird, like 5 years later, everyone's doing it. And I know that in my conscious brain, but it took me a while, and it really took me until seeing people who like were maybe femme presenting or still liked wearing makeup or like still wanted to identify as lesbian or queer or whatever it may be, and still were non-binary, that I was like, oh, okay, other people are doing it, so I guess I can too, which is so backwards. But for me, that was really important.
That's awesome. I think that's super cool. Yeah. I think everyone's different on I have no problem with like someone referring to me as they, but I don't think I would pick it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't be like, if someone asked me she or they, I'd be like, oh yeah, like she, her. Yeah. But if someone called me they, them, I would be fine with it. I wouldn't have any problems with it. But I mean, some people want to be called both. Like I have a friend who likes using both in conjunction, like in sentences and different things. And they really like when I use they a lot more, because they don't get that a lot. Yeah. So like that was super eye-opening for me, is like using them in the same sentence or using them, like in the same paragraph when you're talking about someone, which is cool.
Yeah. That's been cool.
That's cool. So would you consider yourself non-binary, or is that still a journey that you're going on?
I mean, it's been like a month, so I would say it's still a journey I'm going on,
Yeah.
but I think kind of similar to, I think a lot of like lesbian women go through this, where when you first start thinking about women, like I know I was like, oh, I could kiss a girl, but I would never marry one.
Yep.
Oh, I would like date a girl, but I'll still marry a guy. And then like it
Yep.
slowly flips. I feel like that's kind of the same process that I'm going on, where right, I
Hmm.
started and I was like, oh, well, like I relate inherently to the experiences of non-binary people, but you can just call me she. And
Yeah.
then like
Yep.
that's I don't relate to like the pronouns, you know? And I feel like now I'm starting to kind of when I'm getting more comfortable, I'm like, okay, like I actually like the pronouns being mixed or whatever. And like who knows if that'll go further or not. But it does feel like that same journey of like getting comfortable with it to figure out what your boundary is. Like you kind of have to go to the very
Yeah.
edge to figure out. But
You really do.
it's
You really
fun.
do. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. I really commend you for being able to talk about your experiences while you're experiencing them because a lot of people
Mhm.
can't do that. Specifically me. I
Mm.
can't do that at all. Like the stuff that I talk about has happened in the past, but I wish that I could have. Like when I was going through it, like chronicled it as it was. But I
Yeah.
like didn't have that self-confidence or the self-assurance that I was right or wrong in what I was, or I was right in what I was doing. I was afraid that
Mhm.
like, what if I come on and chronicle this experience through content creation and it turns out that I'm straight? You know what I mean? Because he's like,
Yeah.
because I still had in the back of my head, like, what if this is all like a lie? Or what if this is this and this and you're not really gay and you're just making a big show? Like all this stuff. Like
Mhm. I
I had
still
so
wake
many
up sometimes
limitations.
and think that. I'm like,
Yeah.
am I making this up? Do I even like women? Then I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. We do.
Yep. Yep. So I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. Like not a lot of people can do that while they're going through something. As I mean, it's a huge undertaking when you come out. And it
Uh-huh.
varies for everyone, but I think that's super cool. I think that's why I'm like super intrigued because like I'm going to like watch and see like what happens because it's
Yeah.
it's life.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like I just got like so privileged in so many ways that like first of all, like my whole family, even like my grandparents were just like so accepting. And so that already kind of like took a lot of pressure off where I felt more comfortable being who I am online. And then also like growing up, my mom was like a single mom and she was a social worker. And so there was just like a lot. And I grew up in a house full of women who were just all like bosses in their own way. And so I feel like I just grew up around people who were like very good at communicating and who were very insightful and like worked with therapists or were therapists. And then like with the whole social work thing growing up, like my mom's friends would be sitting around talking about queer people all the time and like their experiences like that just
Yeah.
happened to be with their work. And so I felt already more, I feel like I was more comfortable and more established than a lot of people. Like a lot of my
Yeah.
friends who grew up religious and couldn't even talk about it. And so
Hmm.
for me, I'm like, I can talk about it while I go because I've always just talked about things like this. And so
Yeah. It fast tracked it for
yeah,
you.
it did fast track it to already have like a safe space. Like so many people don't have it. So
But honestly, that's good because then people can
mhm.
see you chronicling your stuff, and then they get
Yeah.
like if I felt like if I would have seen like someone as they were going through it, like Shannon Beveridge was like one of the main people that did that. Like she did it
Yeah.
as she was doing it, but I watched those things in retrospect. I wouldn't didn't watch
Yeah.
them in real time. So like if I had seen like someone doing it in real time, it probably would have given me more confidence to do it. So like your play like to be able to be so privileged, like you have a place in your content
Yeah.
that can help people like that.
Yay, that's the goal.
So
Awesome.
hey. But yeah, that is super cool. Another thing that I saw like a random TikTok of yours the other day, and you were talking about auditioning for a lesbian dating reality show. Like, what is this? I swear to God, I like
Uh-huh.
saw that and I was like, what the fuck is this? Because like I've only seen like, Are You the One, where it had the queer
Mhm.
season,
Mhm.
and there's like the gay one with the gay man one, which is Fire Island or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what the fuck is she talking about? Like I was like reading the comments, like
Trying to, especially a girl commented on it and was like another like TikToker, and she was like, "Oh my god, they literally just hit me up too. Like I'm in a relationship, so I couldn't do it. I ended up not being able to go because of like rules changed, and so I couldn't work in the States because I'm Canadian, so I won't be
gotcha.
on it.
Oh,
But now I feel like I'm seeing like every single TikToker on it, like talking about it, and like people aren't saying like specifically what it is. They didn't tell us we couldn't say anything, but
yeah.
yeah, like a HBO, I think I can say it's HBO, an HBO producer reached out to me
Oh, that's
telling me
awesome.
that essentially they're doing some sort of dating show and they want it to be very gender and sexuality like inclusive. I think there's going to be like bisexual men, bisexual women, gay men, and everyone's
amazing.
just in like one dating pool together. So there's like a lot of fluidity from
so
what I know.
cool.
And I think it's coming out like in the summer, or maybe I don't know, maybe next year, but
yeah.
Either way, very exciting. I'm so excited to see what they do. I've seen like a few other content creators talk about how they've been like reached out to, but if you're American and gay and single, I would try to get on it. I think
Man, I want to get on that shit.
Yeah. Are you American gay and single?
I'm American gay and single. I saw that and I was like, that is so neat because I like had never seen anything like I never thought about like being on a reality show. Like it wasn't something that crossed my mind, but I'm like, shit, like I do all of this. Like I feel like that would be so much fun. Like that would be so much fun
it's
to
like
be a
summer
part of
camp, but on TV.
Summer camp is gay. Queer. It's like band camp and theater camp all in one.
It's the dream. It's actually the dream. I know. And my dream has been to be on a reality show my whole life. Since I was like 14, I was so sad. I've been auditioning for The Bachelor until obviously this year. Every year I've been doing the full audition process since I turned 18. The Big Brother, Survive. Like I've auditioned for all of them, but no one wants me. But I really want to be on a reality show. So if anyone listening wants to cast me,
it's gearing up for something. You're gearing up for something. You're gonna be on one. Like
I just want to make out with someone on like broadcast TV.
Yeah. And you're determined, and if you've done it before, you know the tips and kind of tricks of like of doing it, even if you haven't been like a contestant yet. You know what I mean?
Dare to dream.
So I believe in you. I believe in
Thank you.
And if I get on, I will vouch for you. I'm gonna be like my friend Emma Stern.
Like you gotta send her in. You gotta
send her a green card. Get her a fucking green card.
Literally, they were like, "Can someone get you a green card?" I was like, "No." I wish.
Damn.
I know. I was like, oh, maybe I can get married to get a green card to be on the show. And then I was like, well, I probably can't get married and then be on a dating show in the same month.
Yeah. HBO makes sense though. HBO or Showtime or MTV.
Both. Yeah.
Like
those
very
would
queer.
be the ones.
Yeah. I would love to see a queer bachelor, bachelorette, but like I did some research on it and like it would just be hard because you'd be putting queer people in boxes and like subjecting them to heterosexual norms. And so like I don't know if I'd want to see.
And all the people in the house, like all the contestants would have the opportunity to date, you know?
Yeah, so then they'd be fucking each other. So
it would be no one would want to date the bachelorette.
Yeah, like, it would be bad.
Yeah.
But like, and Are You the One? I mean, was great because they were like encouraged to do that because they were trying to find their match. Mm-hmm. So like, it made sense under those circumstances. But like, yeah, the Bachelorette would be like, queer people would be so mad, like madder than like Happiest Season coming out because it would be literally like, oh, I have only preferences for femmes. So then you have like a bunch of butches that are doing each other and a bunch of femmes, and it's like the 1950s.
It would be like an underground dance.
Yeah, they might have like one like non-binary person, like one like trans person that's like.
But they're not going to make it far. They're just like the token
they're
like,
into
diversity.
Like local color. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. But Dare to Dream, like Love Island, but gay. That's
seriously. There was an SNL. I don't know if you're a big an SNL fan, but like they did a parody on like Fire Island where they just made like lesbians and they called it something, but it was like basically just like these lesbian moms in their 30s with like their kids from like home water birth. It's like Kate McKinnon's in it.
Oh my God.
And they all like sing and chant and like eat cheese plates. It's like the funniest shit ever.
I'm like, that sounds really nice.
It honestly does, but there's like no like crazy promiscuous like you know, because it's like that stereotype of like gay men as being like, you know, promiscuous.
The promiscuous ones.
And the
like gay women are way more promiscuous. It's just everything's so much faster. They'll like sleep with 10 people and then they'll fall in love and get married like all within 1 month.
Yeah.
Whereas gay men, it's like they sleep with 10 people over 10 months, you know, like we're just like on hyper. We're just
boom, boom, boom.
Very efficient. Very efficient people.
Women are very efficient because you get through things faster if you're talking, because like women are verbal, so you're constantly talking, so you're getting through. Like I swear to God, I had a 1.5-year relationship. It felt like a 6-year relationship.
Yeah, you talk so that's so true. Like we're having 10 conversations for every one conversation I was having with a straight man. Like
so like it like does speed up. So I feel like I don't know. Like I guess like I don't know if this sounds bad, but like I've seen people who like, you know, move in after a few months. And I think that's maybe that's just my avoided attachment tendencies where I'm just like, oh my God, like just 4 months. But like, I know 4 months is like a year. in
in
a
lesbian
year
time.
makes
It's
sense.
true. We have a different
I get
calendar.
it.
Like,
It still makes me want to like cringe a little bit, but I'm like, I
Mhm.
get it though. Like I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah. Oh my God. With attachment styles, literally my roommate was roasting me because I've always had
Yes.
an anxious attachment style. And so I've already always wanted to like move faster than all the guys that I've dated. And now she was like, this is a recipe for disaster because finally you're in a world where everyone's like, oh, anxious attachment style is like industry standard. Like that's normal here. And so now
Yeah.
I have to like be the tough one. Like not telling a girl you love her after like 2 weeks is like being like really emotionally mature and like I'm really thriving.
Yeah. Bucket list, not tell the girl I've been dating that I love her just yet.
Yeah, literally.
Make
I'm
her
like,
work
oh,
for it.
I'm doing so good. Like actually mean it before you say it.
I've been really getting into attachment styles and I keep getting them up on my profile. I have a couple people. There's a couple people that I really like to watch. But like I was super avoidant, especially like before I dated women. I was just like off the charts, like with everyone, like family, friends, like no one knew what was going on with me ever.
Yeah.
And then I came out and I became so much more open and vulnerable, but
Hmm.
still with relationships, I was still like more avoidant. And it wasn't until I
Yeah.
got out of like my like long-term relationship that I started becoming like it started like kind of fading away, but I went from avoidant to anxious. I went from one end to the other,
My
which was a
nightmare. I'm
trip.
going to avoidant. I feel it right now. I'm going
Oh,
from anxious to avoidant lately.
I
And I'm like,
did.
no.
And I
Like
think
really.
COVID made it worse. I think
Hmm.
COVID, like, not that I think I would have had the switch no matter what, like
Hmm.
from that to that. But like, yeah, we just
Like you
skipped
gotta
over
cling to
secure.
shit when you get it now. Like
Yeah. And I think the person I was with was way more avoidant than I was. So I think that's why she was like off the fucking charts.
yeah. That's so
Um,
true. Whoever you're with, you end up being the opposite. It's like
yeah,
if you know, have you watched Modern Family?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, well, basically, I've always referenced my love life as like Claire and Phil, which are like the parents, and Claire's like the serious one who gets shit done, and then Phil's like the fun, happy go lucky, like puppy. And I
Mhm.
always said that I wanted to marry a Phil. And then recently, I've finally discovered that I want to marry a Claire so that I can
Yes.
be the Phil because you can't
Ooh.
have two. And
Yeah,
if
you
I
can't.
date someone who's like a puppy, I'm going to end up being like serious and boring. So I need to date someone who wants to be the serious one so that I can
Yeah.
like just like like dig around, you know?
Or you can look at it as like sun and moon, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah, that's like
bubbly and the brooding, not
yeah,
necessarily boring, but they might be more artistic and more like
yeah,
feelings and
introspective. Yeah,
yeah, you can be the one that's like super bubbly, but you can be like maybe the more serious one, and then you can have someone who's like more broody, but like the more sentimental, like or like,
yeah,
you know,
it's
cuddly
so
one,
true. So many
whatever
things.
works. But yeah, attachment styles are crazy. I didn't realize how avoidant I was and how emotionally unavailable that I was to like everyone. And then I was able to kind of break out of it a little bit, but I was with a really anxious person, like a really anxious person. So
Hmm.
I became like more avoidant, and then I just
Yeah,
went super anxious, which was not fun. So now I get it. I understand how she felt, and
that's the
that's
worst when you
second
finally
thing.
actually understand the other person. You're like, I wasn't just like perfect. Like
Yeah, I
I
never
was feeding into
understood.
this. Like,
I
yeah,
never understood like feeling, walking on eggshells and feeling like you were doing something wrong and like being physically ill. Like I've never been in a point where I was like physically like thought I was going to throw up from like emotional
oh
stuff.
my
And I was like, this is
gosh,
some shit. But it was nice perspective because I'm like, now
yeah.
I understand. Like now I get
Everyone
it.
should be on both ends at one point.
You really should. You should be broken up with. You should be heartbroken. You should break hearts.
Yeah,
You
you got to do it
know,
all. You got to do it all.
You got to be, because then you have more perspective and then you have more empathy. I feel like I have so much empathy after coming out of COVID, more than
Yeah.
I've ever had in my whole life.
Yeah, I'm like,
I
I'm so
cry at everything
patient.
now.
Me too.
It's the floodgates
I
are
mean, I always
open.
did, but yeah,
I didn't. I really didn't. I compartmentalized everything, but now I
COVID
cry at
broke you down.
everything. Everything. I saw a Gerber commercial, cried
Oh
at it.
my
The baby was too
gosh.
cute. It was too cute. Baby
It's like
cried.
26 years of emotion just coming out all in
It,
1 year.
it really is though. Like it is like
It's like
not.
built up.
That's funny stuff. Funny stuff. Let's go to our questions with the queers. Guys, if you don't remember, this is the part of the podcast where we answer your questions on life, love, happiness that we probably have no business trying to answer. So we're unqualified.
Mhm. I love giving unsolicited advice more than anything in the world.
Sweet. Do you like getting roasted in the comments for it?
Yes, I've accepted that too.
Okay, so this one is from Jocelyn. They're 24. They're from Phoenix, and they write, how do you go about being with a woman for the first time and having the talk about being inexperienced?
Oh my gosh. This is funny because I was live, I think, last night with one of my friends who's also kind of recently come out. And we both had like completely opposite experience. Hers was like just pretended that she had experience and she just never told the girl to this day that she was like the first girl she was with.
Okay, all right.
And I was like over communicator. I was like, let me tell you everything. Let me tell you my life story. But yeah, no, that's hard. It's just like awkward.
Yeah. The first woman I was with was also, it was also her first too. So it was both of our first. So it kind of took the pressure off.
Yeah.
But I was on your end where it was like very communicative, like
Mhm.
very much like we both knew. But I think I went into it and I'm normally not someone who jumps in and goes head first, but I really was like, I've been preparing for this for years now.
Yeah.
Like I am so fucking ready. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
don't even care if I don't know what I'm doing because she doesn't
Yeah.
fucking know either. You know what I
You
mean?
can be
So
embarrassed tomorrow, but like just have fun today.
and that's something that I've talked about on this podcast. Like those little things are fun. Like they build intimacy, like the little oops and the laughs
Yeah.
and like the awkwardness. It doesn't have to be awkward if you don't make it awkward. You know what I mean? Like
That's exactly right. Like I wouldn't want to have sex with someone where it wasn't awkward, but we didn't laugh about it.
yeah.
Like if it was fully like if everything went smooth, I'd be like, this isn't fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes you can be on X Games mode. You can be
Yeah.
and that's like an anomaly. I've had X Games mode stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I think
As you should.
you build relationships with the oops and you're figuring out someone's body and it's like
Yeah.
everyone is like vulnerable and open to communication. It can be a huge building experience. And so like my first time was that. Like it was very
Mhm.
like very soft and like cute,
Yeah.
like communicative and like, we were just figuring out each other's bodies. Like I remember like, the first time that we had sex versus like, months in and the differences that come
Mhm.
with experience and getting to know someone really really well and being in love with
Mhm.
someone and those kind of things. And I think you should just enjoy the experience. And like if you're wanting to have a talk about being an experience, I think you should just be very honest. If you really like them and they really like you, like that stuff doesn't matter.
I think that, okay, something that nobody talks about when girls first start seeing each other is like whether or not you have a conversation beforehand about like being like a top, a bottom, a switch, like what
Hmm.
the tea is with that. And I know that those are kind of whatever, like outdated ish terms, but they're not. And
Yeah.
like the first, like I like to, at first, I assumed I was a bottom because I was like, I don't know, I'm scared, whatever. I'll just
I'm
sit back and
scared.
observe.
Take me.
I was like, let me just like, like watch before I play. And so that was kind of my assumption. But the first girl I dated was like essentially like a stone top. And so
Okay.
I really didn't get any experience like actually like on the other side. And so I feel like that's something that would have been good to know beforehand because then that kind of like tainted my experience of coming to the queer world. Whereas like the second girl I was with was like very much on the same page as me of being like a pretty much like just like a switch, like up for anything. And then I've also had friends who have dated girls who like exclusively like bottom for the most part.
Hmm.
And then that didn't really work with them. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't you rather know before you fall in love with someone or
Yeah.
like before your first time? Because I've like hooked up with girls and they tell me afterwards, like, I never like to like receive. I let you do it just to be nice, but I don't really want that. And I was like, don't let me do it
Oh,
then. Like,
yeah, because then it makes you
um,
feel uncomfy because you're like, I was doing something that you didn't like and I
yeah,
didn't
like you could have
know.
told me. Like,
I
yeah.
I've had those and then I feel bad. I feel gross. Like I'm like, oh my God, I was
Hmm.
touching you, didn't want me to. Like now I feel
Yeah.
disgusting because like
Yeah.
that's not something I like. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, it's so true. So I feel like maybe, I don't know, your first time it's so awkward to talk about so many things, but
Yeah.
I feel like the first time with a new person, it's maybe after the first time you like talk about it, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
rip the band-aid off because that's kind of important. Like in male female relationships, there's already like this pre-established like gender dynamic.
Hmm.
Whereas with like women, it's like every man for himself, you know? It's a
Yeah. I think
whole new
women are
world.
super understanding though. You know what I mean? And
That's
like,
true. They're really nice every time you do say something.
yeah. And so I think that it's easier to be inexperienced when it comes to that. And I also think like some women are into it. Like they really like they're into the whole inexperienced thing. That's like a huge turn on. And some people it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
But I think being upfront is the best case scenario. And I think like some things do come naturally, I would say. Not
Mhm.
everything. You're getting to know a new person's body every time you have sex with someone. So
Yeah.
like I feel like there are like basics that you like know and can like kind of
Yeah.
understand, but then everyone has little nuances and things that they like and things that are neutral and things that they don't like. And that
Yeah.
comes with time. But communication is like very, very key
Yeah.
to
That
be,
was
you
like the
know.
biggest thing I was shocked about. Like, and I would tell my like roommate who is straight and we do our podcast together. We've been best friends for years and kind of going through this process and voicing all of my feelings to her. And I was like, a man has like never like talked about sex during sex with me. Like for men, for the most part, obviously I'm not going to stereotype all of them, but in my experience with men, like they would be very offended if you start like give any sort of constructive criticism or you're like, okay, let's mix things up, like it kind of kills the mood for them. Whereas with women, that's like ideal. Like
Yeah.
ideally, it's like
Tell
you're
me.
giving tutorials and you're like, yeah, you're like being very constant check-ins. And I'm like, why is this the most beautiful thing? Like we're
Yeah.
so nice and understanding and like take a 2 hour break just to talk
Yeah.
about your feelings and then carry
Yes.
on. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's just fragile masculinity. Like it's like
Hmm.
fragile ego. Like they should already know what they're doing because like, oh, bros, like, oh, I'm so good at sex. Oh, I fuck so many like
Yeah.
women, blah blah blah. And like, I think that that's how they grow up with it. So I don't necessarily like fault everyone. Like I'm not saying it's all their fault.
Yeah.
They're pieces of shit. Like they think they're supposed to know when they don't even
Yeah.
have the anatomy. Whereas women, we already
Literally.
are like, we know that there's always nuances and differences, and we
Yeah.
have the same parts necessarily. Not everyone, not every
Yeah.
woman has the same parts, and not every person who has the same parts as you is a woman. But you
Yeah.
know,
But I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, just want to like
No,
add that.
yeah. But it is crazy. Just like the switch of, yeah, like the culture and the community and just like how people who were raised in like female communities in any capacity, like are just so much more comfortable talking
Yeah,
about things. It's so
yeah.
nice. It's so refreshing. I thought that I was like an over communicator with men. And then the second I was with women, I was like, oh, I'm like the closed off, awkward one now. And that was so weird. I was like, what? I was like,
Oh,
I'm
how the
not
turntables.
literally. I was like, I don't even know.
When I think back to like the like men talking in the bedroom, it was like literally the only thing I can remember is like this one guy was like, I really like to have women go first. You know what I mean? Like it really is a turn on.
Yeah.
And like that was the first time that anyone had done that to me. And so like obviously like he went down on me or whatever. And it was like all right, but it was like too much. But at the time I didn't have the
Yeah.
confidence and no
You're
wherewithal to
like,
be like
okay.
this. And then at the
Yeah.
like after a while he was like, did you come?
And
And
you're
I
like,
just said, yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Because if you say no, he's going to feel bad or he's going to keep going. You're like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, now I wouldn't do that. I mean, I will say I
Yeah.
have done that with some women where I just, because I don't want to like hurt their feelings. It's not
Yeah.
about hurting their egos. Like it's about I don't want to hurt their feelings because it wasn't
Yeah.
about them. You know what I mean? They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it just is not about the journey,
Yeah.
but it's not about the
It's all
destination.
about the journey, not the destination.
I will
Exactly.
say, I there was one point where I was like, I have never lied about that, but like I actually have.
I feel that.
And it's not because of them. It was
Yeah.
more because of me.
I literally talked to my friends about this and I'm like, I didn't realize, like, I think because with men, like, I was just like not attracted to them at all, but I thought I was supposed to be. So I was like the promiscuous friend. Like, I slept with lots of men because I
Yeah,
was like, oh, maybe I'll find the right one.
yeah. Let me just
And so
fuck
I'm
a
like,
bunch of them. One of them
one
will
of
turn me.
them will be fine. And then I realized like I had been faking it for like 3 years consistently. Cause like whenever I just was like, okay, I would like to leave this situation, I was like, oh, that's the default. Like,
Yeah,
and so I had been faking it for so long that I'm still like to this day, like have to catch myself. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm faking it or not with girls. And so
yeah,
it is so interesting because girls like they see right through it though.
yeah.
They're like, this is not a performance. You can chill. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you have to
And
be
if
like
you space
authentic and
out or you're
vulnerable.
in your head, they fucking know.
They know, like, you have to be vulnerable and real
Yeah.
and yourself. And like, that's amazing, but it's also kind of scary.
It can be intrusive if you're not ready for it and open for it. And I've had those times where I've done that to other people where I've been like, hey, are you okay? Hey, is this? And I could tell like they weren't ready. Like they weren't ready for me to say that. Or like, and I've had people like that have done that to me where I was like, oh fuck, like
I have to talk right now.
Now I have to lie or I have to say something that I'm not or like, we're not like, we're not in a relationship. And now I have to like talk. And now it's just, there's just all this like that goes into it.
The pros and cons of being over communicators versus under communicators.
Yeah. And the subtle little things, like women notice everything. You know what I mean? And we know that because I notice everything. You notice everything. So like,
they're gonna notice too.
Or like what are you thinking? Like that always is the thing for me. Like I was with like one person like briefly and they were like, what are you thinking about? Like, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, oh shit.
I have to come up with something now.
What am I thinking if you don't want to, like most of the time I would say what was on my mind, but then there's, and then it's like, but it's like, they know. Like they know something's happening. And I know, because I've done that to people when I was in my anxious phase.
Yeah.
There was this one person I was in, I would call it a situationship because it was not a relationship and it was never going to be one.
Yeah.
And I would say like, what are you thinking about? And I knew that she was fucking lying. Like I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, when I had the goggles off, but intuition, it's women intuition.
Intuition. Yeah.
Intuition's crazy.
I'm just not used to it being used back on me. That's like the weird part. You're like, oh, what? You have the same powers as me?
Yep. Well, let's go to the lightning round. We'll finish it out. Do you want to answer some questions really, really fast?
Sure.
Okay. King, Princess, or Kehlani?
Kehlani.
Okay. Janelle Monáe or Tegan and Sara?
Tegan and Sara.
Ooh. Hayley Kiyoko or Girl in Red?
Girl in Red.
Okay. Beanies or snapbacks?
Beanies.
Jean jackets or flannels?
Jean jackets.
Giving presents or getting presents?
Giving presents.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Oh, yeah. No one says that.
I have like really strong opinions about all of these too. Like I hate the other one in all of these options. I'm like, oh, this is actually really easy.
Hayley Kiyoko? Fuck that girl. King Princess?
I don't like Hayley Kiyoko. I hate King Princess.
I'm not a huge Hayley fan, but I do love King Princess. I
don't know why. I just like
the rocker style.
I think I'm too late to the game.
I get that. I'm a big tea fan. So most people say coffee because it's America and everyone drinks coffee. And Westerners, everyone drinks coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking tea person.
It just kind of grosses me out. I don't know. I like coffee. Or I like tea. I don't like coffee.
What's your favorite tea?
Okay. Well, my favorite tea is like a chai. But if I'm not having chai, I'm having like mint tea or something like chill.
Nice.
What about you?
Mint tea in bed or like chamomile tea. But yeah, I'll do black tea or green tea in the morning.
Yeah.
Kind of my thing.
I need like the caffeine.
But when I go
but not
the
the coffee
shop, I'll get a chai tea latte.
Yeah, it just feels like the right thing to say.
Fancy. And I like, I like make sure I dress like I'm a fucking main character when I go.
Yeah.
Like chai tea latte with almond milk.
Thank you.
Lactose free.
Yeah, I do oat milk, but
oat milk. Okay.
on next level.
Oat milk is the new almond milk, I guess.
Oat milk's the new almond milk. Save the water.
Favorite queer movie of all time?
Bold choice, but Debs.
Okay, I've never seen it.
I love Debs. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
No one's ever said that. I have asked this question so many times. No one's ever said Debs.
Okay. What I love about Debs is that the main character, without spoiling it, she just is gay. And this is the early 2000s, but she just is gay. And she's like talking about going on a date with a girl, and her guy friend is like, you need to get back out there. Like you and your girlfriend broke up like 2 years ago. And they never address the fact that she's gay. And none of the plot has to do with people being upset about a gay relationship. They're just upset about those two people being in a relationship. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. And everyone's hot. So
this is so beautiful and everyone's hot.
And everyone's hot. Yeah.
That's perfect. Are you the gay that squishes the bugs?
No. I'd love to be. I'd love to be. And I like to exude that energy, but not in practice.
We aspire to squish or dispose of them in a eco-friendly way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Last question. Last song you listened to on repeat. King Princess, right?
100%. I've been listening to any TikTok song. Right now I'm listening to that song Babushka. Okay. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's really good vibes. It's like an 80s rock pop song. that I've been seeing on TikTok a lot. And
I'll have to check it out.
it just has like really good energy. Like if you just want to like feel like really excited, it's a good song.
I do go on Spotify and I look at like the TikToks.
The TikTok,
like
I look alt TikTok.
Yeah, I really do because it has really good music on it. It really does.
They do, yeah.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast, Emma. If you want to check out more about them, you can find them at You Did This for Why on TikTok. And what is your Instagram?
It's annoying. It's e.mma.a.
Okay.
There's Emma with some dots. But...
Emma with some dots.
Yeah.
And as always, you can find me on all platforms at Brie Logan. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe where you're listening and check out our full video episodes on YouTube with the link in the description. That is it for this episode, my queers. Be you, be queer, stay safe. We will see you on the next episode.